Squirrel.
Hey, y'all. Hey, Spencer. We're swapped around again.
Huh?
We're swapped around again.
Yep, I know you do it on purpose. There we go.
How's everybody?
Live.
I mean, we got in here. Hey, Lisa.
Howdy.
How are you today?
I'm all right.
I'm just kind of here, I think. I'm clipping on about 3 hours worth of sleep, but that's all right, too.
You said living the dream. Make up your mind.
I didn't say what kind.
He's living a dream. He's in a dream.
He's in a
I
dream.
didn't say what kind. There's different kinds of dreams, Spencer. Some's good, some's bad, some's ugly. You make.
Hello to everybody that's already on here. Everybody in chat, the moderators, thank you very much. Misty is not going to be on the show today. She can't make it. Just keep her and her family in your prayers, please. Anyway, so we got Lisa on here, and we were backstage, and I started out with like, so how do we even start part two? Because I'm not sure where we left on part one, because we just went everywhere. Greg made the comment about the train is always going to go off the tracks. I said that we have to have a station to even pull the train out of. Then we started talking about Greg apparently got to go out last night with Jimmy and Kumbo and some other folks and go booger him for a little bit. They did calls, got vocals back. And then we were talking about Greg's man cave, which if you spent more than 24 hours there, you're probably going to at least hear something. But anyway, he said he was talking. We were talking about like going out and calling boogers. And, you know, whenever you get down to it, if you go out and call them and you get a response, that's what you're going for, right? Well, there's two types of people. There's the types of people that wait for the boogers to actually come in. That's when you get the branch breaks and the growls and shit thrown at you and everything. And then there's the other type of people that are like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what is that? And they're like, okay, well, it's time to go. It's like you just called them. And Greg said, yeah, some of them are like, okay, we got to reply. Let's go somewhere else and call them again and piss off a whole different other group of boogers.
Yeah. Which, like last night, you know, which that ain't what we do, but I know there's people out there that do that. And like last night, we called to them and got an answer like abruptly. I mean, soon as Kumbo let out his first call, he let the first call out. And, well, no, excuse me. He started off with one call, and we got a reply back. And I'll just tell you, he did he done his patented Kumbo hoot owl. And we got an owl call back, and it sounded like the first one was like an owl. He done it again, and it didn't sound like an owl. It was way different, and it didn't have any trill. And then he swapped up on his call after a couple of minutes, and he done a short, what I call a Kumbo call, patented Kumbo, and you're not going to know it unless you're out there with him, because we don't record it. But anyway, he did that exact call, and it's a short call, and I know Spencer's heard it. But it sounded like that would have probably been maybe a half a mile away. And where we're at, it had a lot of echo. Kumbo's, he done that short call. The echo quit. And then it was about 20 seconds. I'm talking about, it was the exact call, and it was crisp. And it come from like, it would have been like my 10 o'clock. But it sounded like it was probably half a mile. But we got the exact call back.
So it mimicked him? It mimicked his call?
It mimicked his call. And the call he does, is not, I'll just tell you this, it's not any other kind of animal. It's just a call that he does to provoke these things. And when he did it, about 20 seconds, it was crisp. Now, some of the other guys where they were, because I was sitting in a truck looking this way, they were on the other side of my truck. And I know Osmer said he heard it. A couple of other guys, I don't think did. But yeah, okay. Yeah, but now we got a lot of replies back. We heard a lot of different stuff. Some of it, sure, it was owls. 100% it was owls.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of stuff back that wasn't. We never had anything come in, and we stayed in both places. Like when we roll up, we'll sit there 15, 20 minutes, let everything settle down. And then when he starts calling, he'll call, wait a few minutes, and then call. And sometimes it'll all come from one direction. Last night, we had stuff coming from multiple directions. We'll wait a little bit, and he'll do it again. And a lot of times when you do that, if they're going to come in, you can tell it. They're getting closer. These just kind of hung up. They never advanced, and we probably stayed that first place, Barry? Probably an hour? Close?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, that's Aunt Murphy's son, Barry, my first cousin. He's sitting over here. He was one that went with him.
Hey, Barry, I told them to tell you hi last night. You weren't there.
Yeah, they was out loafing around with me, and you done that show yesterday. But anyway, but yeah, he had two guys that were horribly green in the Bigfoot world that worked with him, and they all kind of retired at the same time. So they come up here. So these guys got to go out really green. Now, I really wish something really fantastic would have happened. We didn't have that. Sadly, we didn't. But now these guys were like little jittery on going out. Like, dude, we're going out in the woods, like trying to contact a Bigfoot. And they really, honestly, in all fairness, these guys really didn't have any clue about what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, or even what to expect. So there was some nervousness in there, and I'm not saying anything about these. They're great guys. These guys all retired as law enforcement officers.
Yeah.
So here we go. It ain't like these guys are scared of their own shadow.
If your first experience in the booger world for real, your first for real experience is you hear somebody do calls and you hear calls come back, because everybody that has heard it in person for real, you know that there's that line where you go, that I've never heard that before. I've never heard that before. That does not sound like a coyote. Like even the owls, whenever you hear the 500-pound owl, I don't know what y'all heard, but if you hear the hoo, and you can tell it's not an owl, and you know damn well it's not another person right there in the woods. But all I'm saying is it's very good for your first experience. That's some of my first stuff was just hearing the reply vocals. You know, if your first experience is trees getting pushed down and shit getting thrown at you and screaming and everything, it makes you a little cautious.
Hey, Spencer, how about if your first experience
the whole world
with Steamboat Baker doing the calls and you're in the convoy with Greg House?
Yeah, well,
and all this going on. I told him it was like you've just taken batting practice with Babe Ruth.
Right, exactly. If you're not in the know, if you don't know anything about boogers, they're probably like, who the hell are these guys? Like Greg and Osmer and Kumbo and everything. And they're like, oh, this older dude got out and did some kind of scream, and then we had this stuff holler back. But again, though, you know what's impressive? If the first time it happens, and especially all y'all, because I know your background, but if all y'all retired from where you come from, if you're telling me that those guys got out and they were like, what the hell is that? I've never heard that before. That's a good first time with some really professional people, and you can't ask for no better than that.
I agree. We had a great experience. My guys performed the way that I would have hoped that they would have. It was a good level of experience. There was something that happened that was obviously, not the norm, but not too scary. but scary enough.
Yeah.
It was great.
Hey, I'm
We
just
did
happy.
brief them before we went out, kind of what we were doing and how things were going to happen. But until you actually see it, you don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You can know without seeing it. You just keep talking yourself out of it until you lay eyes on it. But hey, Lisa.
Yeah.
Barry, feel free to stay on here if you want to. Lisa, hey,
Yeah.
all of the experiences that you've had, and we're going to start on the boogers and Dogman subject. Oh, look.
Okay.
Hold on. Hold on one sec. Look at him. Ain't nothing too scary. Uh-huh.
Oh, listen at him. Yeah, but he grows up.
He likes to jump. He likes to jump in, throw a stick of dynamite, throw a grenade, and then he gets out of chat and you can't even talk to him. Jerk.
Larry grows up like Tarzan, son. He ain't feared nothing.
He ain't scared of nothing. He's gotten to the point where he goes out in the woods and he like dares them. He's doing everything he can to have something be right there, and he damn dares to things. And I'm like, whoa, calm down a little bit. He's like, this is why we're out here. I'm like, well, yeah, but
look,
yeah, but you got something there that can walk up on you and rip your arms off and sling you halfway across the woods.
he knows.
You know what?
He doesn't care.
Spencer, you know what it is. When he goes out there in the woods and them things stand out there from camp looking and they watch him tear into something he's eating, it scares them. It scares them. They're like, man, I don't know what that is over there. We thought it was human, but look the way it's eating. I mean, if it goes in front of it, it devours.
Yeah,
so don't get too close.
Over food. I wouldn't fight him over food. You're gonna get hurt. I carry an extra Snickers every time we go in the woods with him in case he gets in bitch mode. Throw it at him.
Want some candy?
Yeah, exactly.
So, Lisa, with all of your experience, but we were just talking about like vocalizations and everything. Have you ever heard the giant owls? Have you ever heard the 500-pound owl that doesn't have a trill and doesn't sound like an owl?
Yeah, not maybe a 500-pound owl, but one that had a pretty deep voice.
Right.
I've had that sound during the daytime, and this was weird because you don't really hear owls a lot, during the daytime, but there's been a few times when I've walked out my door and then you hear that whoo, 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 and it'll just stop. And you stand there and you're looking around because it's broad daylight, and you go back in the house, and then maybe 15 minutes later you come out, same thing. And it happens over and over every time you walk out the door. It's like they're watching and letting everybody know, okay, crazy woman's back out in the yard again.
100%. I mean, we all know that, but what about like in your area? Do they do whoops? Do they do knocks? Do they do rock clacks? Do they do whistles? What do they do right there?
They do the owl sounds. They do the whoops. They do that talking. That one that I told you about, I call Hoss, that great big one.
Yeah.
I was outside one night and I heard him plowing through the. They're like a wild hedge, and he had cracked some of the limbs off. They were already dead, but he tore them down. But he was walking up the hill, and I heard him in a real deep voice. It was just one word. He went, "Ma-wah," and I was like, okay, because I'm only about 25 feet away from the fence, and I just stood there for a minute and kept on plowing through, But a friend of mine looked up that word as best as I could tell him. I said it sounded like "mawa," whatever the heck that was. And he said it had two different meanings. Either it means road or it means evil. So I don't know if because he was heading towards a road, but I was also standing there. Maybe he thinks I'm evil or something because I sprayed him with the water hose.
Well, talk about that. Talk about the first time you experienced What'd you call him, Hoss?
Yeah. That was that on the last show when I was talking about that big black shadow that I saw coming across the yard when I was getting my groceries out of my truck.
Yeah.
Because it started at the corner of my yard, and each time I went back to get more bags out of the back of my truck, she, it, whatever, was about 10 or 15 feet closer each time, and just standing just stiff like a post. But each time I went back to my truck, he was a little bit closer. And then I saw him again across the road where nobody lives, and he was just standing out in that yard close to the road. And I assume he was staring over here. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he was staring off at the other across that yard where a pond is. I don't know, but just stayed still, didn't move or anything that night. But he's come up to the fence, and it's like I'll be outside again, farting around with my plants and stuff, and came up to the fence one night, couldn't see him because he's behind the hedges, and all you could hear is breathing, and something that sounded like that, I assume, had a great big chest on it, and just kept standing there, and then I heard a limb snap, and I acted like I wasn't paying attention or listening to him. I wasn't looking up. I was kind of had my head down, but I had my eyes up. And I finally got tired of hearing all that heavy breathing. I said, "Look," I said, "it's almost 2:30 in the morning." I said, "I was out here first. I said, if you don't like that, if I'm bothering you or whatever, I said, you need to go on. I said, because I'm not going back in the house. I'm enjoying myself. I've been out here for the last 5-6 hours, and I'm not bothering you." And so I went and I think I got the water hose, and I was going to water some of my plants, and I heard him tiptoeing, kind of moving down the hill. And evidently he was mad by then because I heard a tree start rocking back and forth. And I mean, he was whipping on that tree. And then all of a sudden I heard that crack, and then it hit the ground, and he picked it up and slammed it on the ground a couple of times. And I yelled out, I said, "Hey," I said, "look at you." I said, "You come up here. I'm minding my own business." I said, "You come up here showing your ass." And I said, "Now you're tearing my damn trees down." I said, "You need to kick rocks and get on out of here." And I heard him moving on. And then all of a sudden the dogs started barking, and I unlocked their gate, and I went behind there, and I was shining flashlight, and above that 6-foot fence all I could see was eye shine. So he was coming up behind the house, I guess, to go around. And the fence is kind of like a little bit lower on that end because it's like on a slope. And I was thinking, oh crap, what if he comes around? He can just step over that fence, which he could have done anyway. But it was time to go in then because the dogs were having a fit, and that kind of made me feel weird because he's just staring straight over the top of the fence.
Hold up. First of all, Larry, that's how you rough talk them, like Tim Peeler. But anyway, Pyro, who is native, if you don't know him, he said Ama is Cherokee for water, pronounced Oma though, or Alma. I don't know. But if that's what he said to you, it's probably because you doused his ass with the hose. He never forgot that.
What does it mean?
Means water.
It means water.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. Maybe that was it then, because I had splattered him with all that. I mean, it was the faucet. I mean, the hose was on high. It wasn't turned down or anything, so he got a direct shot when he yelled at me that night.
Everybody else is doing calls and running away. When they're a half a mile away, she sprays one down with the hose. Okay.
No,
Tell him I said thank you.
he may have been thirsty. He may have been thirsty.
Hey, let me ask you this. One time you and I were talking here a couple weeks back, and you said you actually not like the Dogman, but you trust him, or you're not as worried about Dogman as you are the boogers.
Well, the Dogmen, they just seem to watch. Now there have been 3 times that I got a little nervous because that one coming over the top of my fence, that kind of creeps me out because they're so quiet. You can't even hear them. They're so subtle and so slow. I mean, a sniper doesn't have crap on them. I promise. But
Yeah.
as far as like the stuff that they do, it's quiet. They just sit back and watch you. Where a Bigfoot, they come up, they let their presence be known. They hoot, they do their things, they throw stuff, they throw rocks, they'll throw pieces of brick at you and throw it at your house. You know, all kinds of crazy stuff. Where a Dogman just, when they do come through, they're it's like they don't even pay attention to you because I said they could care less. And it's like they're trying to get from point A to point Z and just mainly just sit around and watch. They don't like it now when you get outside, especially if they've been in an area for a long time. Excuse me. When you start cutting limbs and doing stuff in your yard that's taking away cover, they don't like that.
Hey,
You'll tend to have more of them coming in watching you, seeing what the heck you're doing.
Can I show everybody? It's okay if not. Can I show everybody the hand drawing that you sent me about the Dogman coming over the fence? Because I thought you were saying it was on the other side of the fence. I didn't know that you meant whenever you looked over there, it was actually trying to crawl over the fence. Can I show that?
Yeah, sure. It was coming over the fence.
That's what she said.
When I looked up, its head was almost down to the ground, and it looked up at me.
I'm just gonna tell you, if you ever seen the movie Life, where they were in prison back during the Depression?
Yeah.
All right, look. Apparently that fence ain't working, so I'm gonna be like Camp 8. Camp 8, we don't have a fence. What we got is a gun line. That's Mm.
And that fence from my swing was only 25 feet away.
God,
how quiet and how stealthy these things are. Because I mean, I've been sitting there talking on my phone, just looking up every now and then, hadn't even paid attention. And then when I hung up and I looked straight out in front of me, there he was.
Well, let me ask you this: like what you seen coming over that fence, how big was it? I mean,
yeah.
When it stood straight up, that was that one that I said was solid black, and it looked like a wolf. That one, when it stood up, I want to say that thing was probably about 7 feet tall, straight up and down. When it stood straight up.
Wow.
Pyro said, "Time for some razor wire."
What I'm thinking about, brother. Me and Pyro think alike.
I don't know what y'all are talking about. I'd have damn claymores out there, but okay.
No, like that. Look, buddy. I'm saying garden gnome, ceramic garden gnomes full of tannerite.
I'd have the garden gnome holding the claymores, front toward enemy.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, on a very real level, you've experienced boogers, you've experienced dogmen. The problem is, if we joke too much, everybody's gonna not take this seriously. You've been around these things in real life, so I mean, I know my own experiences. Greg has his own experiences. Do you sense them? Do you feel them? You get the creepy feels. You get something feels like it's staring at you. How does the process work? Okay.
Oh yeah. There's been times when everybody calls it research, but my whole thing was sitting outside, in the complete darkness, just being quiet. I had a flashlight and I had my phone so I could record stuff. But my thing is just sitting outside being quiet, and you start hearing all this stuff. But the thing that gets you, when you start, I guess you're getting a visual on something, and you get like a fear I don't know if it's for everybody, but when I start feeling fear, it's like in the back of my head, right there where your neck starts. But when these things are around, you kind of, it's like a prickly feeling, but you feel it in your chest. It's like the fear starts in your chest, if that makes any sense. And it's kind of like I mean, it's not something telling you in your head, but it's like you start telling yourself, maybe I need to go inside. And then it's like the fear in your chest ramps up a little bit. And it's like, I do think it's time to go inside. Something's out there. I can't see it. I can't hear it. I don't know which direction it's at, but I can feel it. And it starts getting stronger and stronger. And then next thing you know, you're getting up out of your chair and your ass is trying to get in the house before you do.
Yeah.
I've compared it to the couple times that I can think of where it was really present. It is a fear, but it felt more like a static electricity in the air
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so do you get the same thing that everybody talks about where it's like there's almost like a vacuum, like the animals, everything is quiet, like I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of spooky. It's almost like the wind stops, the insects quiet down, like not all the way, but you can feel it in the air.
My ears will stop stuff up, and it's, you can feel this pressure on you, and it's not just your ears, but you can feel it like on your arms and your stomach. It's pin drop silent, and I live, I've got a swamp on my property, and everything just goes dead silent. And then a few minutes later, you'll hear a cricket start chirping up, and then you'll hear some frogs start chirping up, and then it's like all the sound comes back in. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, I know it's hard to tell this stuff unless you live with them. Of course, Greg could speak to this, but there's a bunch of people that could talk to this. Billy's in chat, he could talk to it. But like if you normally every day, if you go outside and normally you have 6-7 deer on your property, 100 yards from your house, it seems like whenever these things come around, like the deer are gone, the deer leave, the deer know that they're there.
Oh,
These things come around for a little bit, and then they go away, and the deer come back, or the coyotes come back, or whatever. Do you see anything like that?
Yeah. There for a while, because I like watching deer and stuff, and I had a doe that would come up and bed down at night around my shed. She always stayed close up to the house, but there for a while, for about 3 years, I didn't even find a deer track on my property, even down by the swamp, even on bare dirt, no deer tracks. And the oak trees that I've got around here, they blow acorns all over the place, and the only thing I saw that was eating the acorns were squirrels. There were no deer tracks. And I came home one night, and I told you about this, but I got out of my truck and I unlocked my gate, and I heard something over in the brush in the front of the house. And I shined my light over there, and I saw some blue eyes shine. And I thought, and I wasn't thinking, I thought, oh, cool, the deer are back. And I shut the gate, locked it, and I went over there to my dogs. I was going to feed up and make sure they had water and stuff. But I noticed they weren't horsing around, barking and, acting silly with their tails and everything. Their tails were down and they were just being quiet. And when I walked in there, I said, what's wrong with you guys? I said, you're not happy to see me tonight? And then I heard some more noise, and shined the light back, and I saw 2 blue eye shines, and then all of a sudden it was 1, and then it was back to 2 again. So it had turned its head, and I thought, I'm gonna go out here and look and shine for the deer. And I had a crappy flashlight. I needed to put new batteries in it, but I walked all the way out in the yard after I unlocked my gate again, and I walked over to this big oak tree that I've got. All 3 of us could probably sit in the trunk of this thing and room left over. But I went on the other side of that because I kind of had a little bit clearer view going downhill, because that oak sits right there where the hill starts to drop off. And I'm shining the light and everything, and I shine it up a little bit more. And it's not one set of eye shine. This is 5 sets of eye shine. And I noticed that and they're all 5 of them are bright blue, and they're coming up the hill towards me. And then all of a sudden it started dawning on me. It's like, when was the last time you saw a deer with blue eye shine? And in my brain I was like, never. And then it's like, holy crap, you're up on top of the hill. Those things are down the hill, but the eye shine is level with you. And I killed myself getting back through the gate and unlocking my door and getting my butt in the house.
Yeah. So now, is that pretty much the only color eye shine you see on the Dogman is the blue?
The blue, the pretty bright blue eye shine. I have seen yellow, and I've seen green, and I have seen that white looking color. And I've only seen the red. A really real red was one time, and I told y'all about that wolf looking Dogman, but that sun was shining in its eyes, so I don't think it was red eyes like the glowing stuff that people see. I think it was just sun reflecting off of its eyes.
Well, all right, let's go back and slow down since y'all have to understand, she's got a ton of stuff. I've talked to her, so I get confused of what we've said on the show or not. But for the people that want to hear the actual descriptions, describe the Dogmen that you've seen physically. Describe them as best as you can. You said the one was about 7 foot tall when it stood straight up, but what did it look like? How wide? Did it taper at the waist? Did you see a tail? Did it have digitigrade feet? Did it have the rear facing hocks on the legs? What did it look like?
That very first one that looked like a wolf, it did have a broader chest on it. It didn't have like that pointy chest like a dog has. It was wide. Yeah. It seemed like it was more streamlined. It didn't really have like a small waist or anything, but it did have a chest on it. And that one, I didn't get to see its back legs because all I was looking at was its head, because that was the main thing I zeroed in on. What I could see of I guess its hands was when it was leaned over into the over on my side of the fence. I told y'all about looked like a thumb hooked at the very bottom of the fence into the wire, and that was on the left side. The right side had its thumb hooked in the top of the fence. But that's pretty much all I saw. Just the color, the fur, and I would say the hair on it was probably 4 or 5 inches long, maybe. But
were the ears long and pointy? Were they on top of the head? Were they on the side of the head?
Up on top of the head, like to the side, up sticking straight up. Yeah, above the head. It had a good sized head on that thing. I would say the snout on it probably 8 inches long, maybe. It fit the size of the head. The head was probably, oh my God, probably about 1.5 feet wide, something like that. It was big. That head on that thing was big.
Did you say last time? Did you say it kind of had like a mane? Kind of had like the hair around the head and going into the back part?
That was there was another. That was from another sighting. I had mentioned to a friend of mine that lived in Alaska that I was going to be working overtime, so that meant I probably wasn't going to be getting home till almost 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know why I did it, but for some reason that night when I got home, instead of just pulling in facing my gate, for some stupid reason I decided to back my truck up where it was facing out towards the road. And I had these huge Leland cypress trees out front. And I'm next thing I know, my phone rings, and it's my friend from Alaska, and he told me, he said, "Hey," he said, "I just want to make sure you got home okay." He said, "I know you were having some issues, and you were kind of nervous about coming home that late. And I told him, I said, well, thanked him and everything. We just started talking, and the people across the street at that time had a yard light next to the road, and it was a full moon night, so there was plenty of light out there. And we're sitting there talking, and I'm just kind of glancing around. And then next thing I know, it's like there goes something from one of those trees to the other one. And I told him, I said, oh crap. I said, there's a guy out here walking the road, and it's this late, and he went from one tree to the other, and I said, he hasn't come back out yet. And so my friend told me, he said, well, don't make any movements, don't, just be quiet and don't let them see you or anything. So I kind of hunkered down a little bit, and we're still talking and stuff. He said, is he still there? I said, yeah. I said, he hasn't moved out from behind that tree. I said, I don't understand what he's doing, because I just got a glimpse of movement from one tree to the other. And as we're talking, then the next thing I know, here comes another one from a tree to that same tree with where the first one went. And I said, oh crap. I said, there's two of them. And he said, Lisa, he said, just scoot down in the seat. He said, you don't make any movements or nothing. Don't let him know you're in the truck. I said, well, hell, I said, if he's been back there, he knows I'm in the truck, or, and so we kept on talking and everything. And I'm sitting there staring at that tree. And then the next thing I know, here comes a third one. But this one, instead of it going going from tree to tree, it steps out in between them, and it's facing the truck. It's looking at me, and I'm sitting there hunkered down, kind of behind the steering wheel a little bit. And then he's sitting there talking and stuff. He said, "Are you there?" And I didn't say anything. And then all of a sudden, this thing takes one step, and it kind of leans towards the truck, kind of bending down, but it's staring dead at my truck. And I just said, oh shit. And he said, what is it? And I still didn't say anything. And then all of a sudden it turns its head to the right where the other two had gone. And then it just stands straight up and walks to that tree like it couldn't give a crap for nothing. And then next thing I know, here comes all three of them running from behind that tree, and they're heading across my yard to go down the hill. It was like stair steps. You had a big one, a medium, and then that smaller one that had looked at me. And the big one and the middle one, they had a big tuft of hair that started on the back of their head, and it went halfway down their back that stuck up real high. And as they ran, the tufts of hair were bouncing on their back. And they were bent over running. They had their elbows tucked, to their side, and their forearms were sticking out in front of them. And their hands were just flapping in front of them as they ran. And they had the hawks on them. I did not see a tail on any three of them. Now, they could have been tucked, but I never saw a tail at all. The muscles on the shoulders and the hips were ridiculous. As far as slender waist, I wouldn't say slender waist. It did kind of go in a little bit, but not that much. But that younger one, now it did not look like the two bigger ones. I assume it was like a family group or something. Maybe it hadn't filled out to reach the point where to look like what these two adults did. But it just looked like if you bought a costume that looked like a werewolf costume, that's kind of like what it would have looked like on these old movies, kind of. But the big ones, that it was bad. It was just bad. When my friend was yelling at me, so are you all right? Are you still there? And I remember telling him, I said, oh my God, I said, they're real. And then I started yelling, I said, they're real. And he said, what's real? I said, I cussed. I said, werewolves are real. Werewolves? I said, werewolves are real. I said, holy shit. I said, werewolves are real. And it took me a while to get out of my truck, because that's only about 50 feet away from me.
You don't say.
Golly.
But I finally got out, because I mean they were flying like lightning bolts. I mean, just all out running. And I got in the house, and that was another sleepless night because that was the point where, holy shit, it's not just Bigfoot. What are these things? 'Cause I didn't know. I started looking up things like werewolves, and then all of a sudden all this Dogman stuff started popping up, and I started looking at pictures and drawings and shit, and I was like, that's it right there. That's it. And I don't know. It when I went back out the next day, the tallest one had run up under an oak tree, had trimmed the limbs on, and it ran up under that bottom limb. And I took a tape measure with me, and I measured from the bottom of that limb down to the ground, and that was a little over 8 feet. And when they were running, they were hunkered over. They weren't standing straight up. So I can
Right.
only imagine how tall they were. They were standing straight up. But I saw that family group about 3 times running across the yard.
Well, let me ask you this, Lisa. I mean, you told me after the show last week, kind of the area you live in, and you're a
Hmm.
couple hundred miles from me, but
Uh-huh.
like where you're living, I mean, how close are the houses and stuff like that? I mean, are you kind of way out in the middle of nowhere? Is it just like rural or
No,
close
it's,
to
it's
things?
it's like a neighborhood kind of area. The houses are not close by to each other. Um,
Yeah,
I would say the neighbor across the street. Oh Lord, um, 80. The house across the street probably 200 or 300 feet away from me. Maybe
okay.
I'm not
Well,
real good with distance, but then the one neighbor that I've got on the other side of the corner, um, you can't really even see their house because there's trees, in the way. But um,
yeah,
he's about, I would say, maybe 175, 200 feet maybe from me,
yeah.
and there's
So
nobody that lives on the other side of me.
yeah. Well, on that, I mean that's. I mean, I know boogers go right up in subdivisions where houses are slammed up together because they're looking for stuff to eat. And
Yeah.
but like where you're at, I mean, do you? I mean, I guess do you know your neighbors pretty good? Do they see these things? Do they talk about it? I mean, like kind of the community you live in. What's people's outlook on it? What is their opinion?
Um, there's a couple of people that have relatives that live out here. I don't know anybody that lives out here. I've been living out here since 2002. I bought the place in 2001, but I don't know anybody. I might know a couple of people's first name, and there's a girl that I went to high school with. We don't talk. I mean, she does her thing, but as far as that goes, I don't know anybody out here. I'm pretty much by myself. I have heard from people that I worked with because they always made fun of me about ghosty stuff and cryptids and things like that. And but one of them was telling me his aunt and uncle lived out here. Not his aunt. That's not the one. He had friends that lived out here, and he got me off to the side. He didn't want anybody else hearing it, but he told me, he said, he said, my friends. I went over to their house one time, and he said they started talking about ghosts. I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said it used to creep them out because they would hear like little kids laughing in the woods back behind their house.
Nope. Nope. I'm
Well,
not.
look, I've heard the little kid laughter a couple times, and that's creepy.
That's creepy. Nope.
Yep. Um,
I,
Another
I
person told me about the kid laughing stuff, but he said that it sounded like a gate opening, like a real rusty gate opening and then slamming shut, and then little kids laughing. So I don't know.
nope.
There again, a lot of people talk about it. Sound like, or a lot of people say sound like a gate, sound like
Metal,
metal
metal.
bang.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Metal doors, metal gates. It makes you wonder. I mean, is all this stuff connected? Is it supernatural? Nobody knows. Hey, hold on real quick. Number one, dog. If you hear this, make a comment down there. Uh, reach out to me, please. I want to talk to you about something and get you on the show if you're willing to. Pretty please. And the stuff that we were saying yesterday on that little live that Greg and I did, man, y'all, if they release it, if they release it and people get to see it, I'm telling you what she was talking about, where she said a couple of them were standing behind that tree and they were just back there for a while and didn't move. Telling you, Parker and Pat, Blue Eyed, the thing is standing behind the tree and like it'll lean out a little bit, like a little bit, not a whole lot. It'll lean out, go back, lean out. They've got like 10, 12 minutes of it doing that. And then finally, when it goes to the other tree, it just goes, whoom. I mean, it's smooth. It's smooth. When you see it move, you'll understand what we're talking about. It goes, boom, 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 over to the other tree. It is so damn impressive. But anyway.
Now that couple of questions in there, Spencer, in chat, like Phyllis asking, are they mimicking kids? I want to touch on like what I heard with boogers. Now, look, as far as I know, I've never had an encounter of anything with a Dogman, unless it was just a sound that I heard, but I've never seen one. But now, when I heard the kids playing, it wasn't just like laughter. I could hear them running through a briar-infested pine thicket with it 20 degrees, a mile from the nearest house or anything, and it sounded just like kids playing. It sounded just like kids playing, and I could hear them. It was like they were playing tag, like they were chasing each other, running all in this thicket, and it was right at dark. And I'm hearing laughter, I'm hearing giggles, like kind of like little kids will squeal when one grabs the other one. And to me, in my head, it's like this is just little kids that happen to be boogers or Bigfoot. And they're playing and they're sounding like kids playing. And I listened to this for 15 minutes or longer maybe. And I'm just astounded by what I'm listening to. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe Dogmen do this. Their little ones do the same thing. I don't know.
Who knows? With the kids laughing,
their little ones will practice on you. I had 3 small ones. They're probably about 3 or 4 feet high, tall rather, and my lawnmower was messed up, so my grass got knee high. I mean, oh Lord, I'm living like trash. But I was going out to my car, and I had my flashlight, and I was shining it across the yard, looking around before I unlocked my gate and went out. And just so happened I saw 3 sets of eye shine. It was green and yellow, and then that bright blue. And then all of a sudden they were this high, then down. They were down on the ground. Yeah. And they were looking through the grass, and I thought, oh shit. And I was thinking, okay, there's young ones out here. I know I'm not going outside now. And then all of a sudden the one with the blue eye shine disappeared. I'm sorry.
Young boogers or young Dogmen?
I don't know if I don't know which ones they were. I just saw that eye shine, but the one with the blue eye shine, then all of a sudden it disappeared, and I had the other 2 with the yellow and the green eye shine still staring at me. And then all of a sudden I hear creeping going down the hill, and I heard some little twigs popping and cracking in those dry leaves. And what it was doing was coming down the hill and circling back towards my fence. And I said, I'm not going to be your plaything tonight. I know you're trying to flank me. I know you're practicing probably, but it ain't happening tonight. And I walked back in the house.
Well, number one, on the kids laughing thing, which that's a common thing. And the sounded like a metal gate or metal doors, creaky metal hinges, whatever you want to call it. I don't think anybody knows for a fact. I don't think if you know it's supernatural. I don't think if you know it's a sound that dogmen make, boogers make. I don't think anybody knows. There's no experts in this field. You know, that's like my famous thing.
I know the Bigfoot can mimic any damn sound that they hear. I mean, they can sound just like you.
Well,
A friend of mine, he went out with another friend of his one night, and I'll just call him Bill. But they were standing at the trunk of the car getting their stuff out, and where they were at, this trail, about 30 feet away, is split off, and they separated from each other, but it was kind of like a big oval. And once you got on down, they both met back up. And his friend told him he was going to go down the trail sort of below the hill a little bit, and he'd meet up with him, where it came back together. Well, my friend, I'll call him Bill, he was, while they were standing there, that other guy kept saying his name. And so when he got through, he shut the trunk. The other guy had already taken off walking, and he got on his little trail, and it was a big bunch of brush or hedges on both sides of it. It was thick. And about that time, when he gets in between those, he hears, "Hey, Bill. Hey, Bill." And he stopped and he turned around because he thought the guy had doubled back and was coming down his trail. And he was looking all around, and there was nobody behind him, nobody in front of him. And it sounded just like his friend that had already gone down his trail. So that quick and mimicking the guy's voice that well, that's creepy.
Well, on the kids laughing thing, is it boogers imitating kids to lure you out? Is it something supernatural? Do they all occupy the same area? I can't tell you how many people that I know that have said that they heard boogers call their dogs, or like call the cows, call the pigs, stuff like that. Where
you should be outside and in the middle of the night, no lights. And this is when I was living in my tent, and I was in my cabin. That it hadn't been here too long, and so I was locking the door, and I stepped down on the ground, and when I did, down there at the swamp, I hear this, and it just still gives me chills. Lisa! And then I stopped and I looked down the hill and it was like, Lisa! And it was time to go to the tent.
Yeah.
Time to go to the damn truck.
Yeah.
No, well, she actually lived in a tent for a little while. She had nowhere else to go.
Look, I may not go home, but by God, I ain't gonna stay there.
Well, some really
relevant. There's been a lot of times when I got my purse and I got my keys, and I walked out my door and I sat on my steps because I was trying to figure out whether I wanted to stay here or just the hell with it and just drive away from it. Get my dogs and just drive the hell away from it and let it go back to the bank or whatever.
Boy, the staying there, I mean, look where I'm staying, I'm dealing with boogers pretty often. But I'm inside of a damn building that I built, and it's built solid. And when I say I'm heavily armed, I'm heavily armed. I ain't about trusting no damn fabric lunch bag. No.
Well, it makes the point, though. She's talking. Okay, so for everybody that freaks out about Dogman and boogers and being around them and everything and thinking they're going to snatch you, look. Everything in this subject is so damn contradictory. It's hard to get an accurate read on what these things are and how they operate and how they feel about humans. But listen, she's been on that property for over 20 years. For a certain amount of time, she had to stay in a tent. And the damn things were right there. She didn't get snatched up. She didn't get taken. Then again, what's the kid sounds? Is that trying to lure somebody out? Greg's been at the man cave for multiple years. And the man cave, I cannot stress this enough. If you've ever been to Greg's property where the man cave is, it's only a stone throw from where he had all the stuff happen. Lisa, if you've never heard all of Greg's experiences, you and him need to talk. And well, like I would really love for him to tell you the motorcycle story. Cause that's my, I'm going to say that house, but that's just my favorite. But all I'm saying is, people, for everybody that goes out looking for these things and does calls on, should you be careful? Hell yes, you should be careful, especially if you're calling them, if you're asking them to come in and all that kind of stuff. And if you don't, if you're not prepared for it and everything. But she lived with them, with Dogman and Boogers, and she spent a year or two in a tent, and she didn't get got. So,
well, my thing too, Spencer, is this. I think it's different troops act different ways. Mm-hmm. It's different things that can be going on in their lives. It could be trials and tribulations they're going through where they don't have much to eat. The one she's around may have plenty of stuff to eat, and she's not on the menu. It may be that when they were there, there's all kind of different things that could be rolled up into it on why they're not dangerous at that point in time. I don't know. But Lisa, while we're talking about that, what if you had to pinpoint one thing, if they've been aggressive, what was the most aggressive thing that they've done that you could think of, like that struck so much fear in you, the biggest amount of fear, I guess?
What's the scariest
the
thing
one
you've ever
thing
had?
that happened, it really did scare the hell out of me. During December, I got home from work and I went to bed. It was morning time. I was on night shift, and I went to bed, and I hadn't been asleep but maybe 30 minutes because I fell right asleep. Well, then I hear this great big truck, revving the engine and stuff, and they just kept on and on and on. They were right here beside my yard. So I get up, I'm pissed, and I throw some clothes on, and I go out there because I'm gonna probably be cussing them out. And when they saw me, they tore the side of the road up getting away. But what they had done, they had a beagle, and they had tied him up to a tree. And I was thinking, oh crap, a dog, okay, whatever. And I go over there, and I'm talking to him and everything, and I untie him, and he lets me untie what they've got around his throat, and he hauls ass and goes up under my shed. And I'm like, okay, whatever, you're loose now, whatever. And I go back in the house. Well, this dog had been in my yard probably, oh God, the Dogmen don't show up here till about the end of January, February. So this was probably around January when this happened. And I started calling him Bug. I was putting food and water out for him because I ain't gonna let nothing starve. So the best that he would let me do by January was put my hand on his head to pet him. I couldn't touch him anywhere else. He'd go flying off again, skittish. But when I would get home at night, I didn't have any lights on in my yard. It's pitch black in my yard. And the people across the road had gotten rid of their yard light. So when that left, I mean, it's black, dark out here. And but Bug, his thing was when I pulled up in the yard, he'd go racing around my truck. I mean, just fast as he could go, and you hear that that panting, And so that was our thing when I'd pull up in the yard, and he did it every time. And so one night I pulled up, and I'm sitting there getting my junk out, and I'm looking for my flashlight, and I hear him just running around in circles around the truck. It was panting. It was really loud, but I didn't pay any attention to it. And I step out of the truck, and no Bug. He's not anywhere around. And I turned my flashlight on, and when I did, it kind of shined back towards the back of my truck where the bumper is. And something that was a little bit taller than the bumper went shooting off behind my truck. All I saw was like a blur of a tan-colored hair. And I didn't see a tail, but it startled me because I was thinking, holy shit, that's a big dog. And I jumped back in the truck, and I still hadn't seen Bug, but I turned my cargo light on. I turned the headlights on. I'm shining the light through the windows and stuff, and I didn't see this thing anywhere. And so I sat there for a few minutes, still looking around, and I finally said, "Get out of the truck." And so I get out, and I'm looking around, and here comes Bug out from under the shed. And he comes creeping over towards me. He wags his tail a little bit, but then it drops. And he keeps looking over towards the brush and everything. I said, "You better leave that dog alone." I said, "That's a big-ass dog." And I said, "He's going to tear you up." I said, "If you fart with him." I said, "Because evidently you weren't playing with him because you're up under the shed." And I left it at that. And I opened up the gate. And I always asked him every time I went through the gate, I said, "Are you coming in this time?" And it was like, he just walk on out through the yard again. And so I'd go inside. Well, then the next night, same thing. I get home and I can hear him running around the truck, panting and everything. And I get out, and when I do, again, no Bug. And then I see him come creeping out from under the shed. He walks up to me and stuff, and again he wags his tail a little bit, but dogs, their faces, they're excited when they see you and stuff, and he wasn't anything like that, like he normally was. He was nervous. And I says, "That dog back?" I talked to him like people, but he
Me
just
too.
looked over towards the brush on the other side of the truck. And I said, "If he's back," I said, "you need to leave it alone." And so I kept noticing he was a low growl. He was growling a little bit. I said, "Leave the dog alone." And so I got over there close to my gate, and then I saw him stop. He was pointing towards the brush. And I said, "Are you going to come in tonight?" I hadn't even unlocked my gate. I was just dilly-dallying around the damn gate. And then all of a sudden, he backed up, and then with his butt, he was bumping me. And that's something he had never done before, but he kept bumping me and pressing up against me, like shoving me towards the gate. And I unlocked the gate, and I kept looking at him. I thought, well, that's a change. And I said, "Are you coming in, Bug?" And he just looked at me, and he looked back at the brush. And I said, "Okay, the hell with it." And I locked the gate. And about the time I got up on my steps and I was unlocking my door, I hear Bug take off. He's tearing through that brush, and I'm yelling out, "Leave the damn dog alone. You're going to get killed." And I hear him just raising hell, and then I hear, "Yeah!" And I was like, "Oh, God." And then he's tearing the brush up again, coming back. And I catch him going past my gate. I had some little wooden crates that I'd gotten from work stacked up there on the right side of it. And I see him go flying past that. His back legs are in front of his front legs. He looked like a triangle running so damn fast. And on his butt, I hear crashing and just sound like a bulldozer coming through the woods. I was like, "What the hell is that?" And I shined the light back past the gate on the other side. And about that time, I didn't see the head on this thing because it was right behind my wooden gate. But I saw the body, and it had a hump on its back. And it wasn't hair. This was like flesh and skin and shorter looking hair. And it was above the top of my gate. And the back end of this thing, what I saw as it was flying past, I could see, because I had the fence post and I had some stuff planted that I had just put out there. So I got a glimpse of where the ass of this thing was and the hump on its back. And I was like, "Oh, shit." And it was after Bug. And I got the door open. I stepped inside and I slammed it shut and I locked it. And I was standing there, waiting to hear Bug getting himself ripped to pieces because this thing was on him. And I didn't hear him get tore up or anything like that. And that was another sleepless night because all night long I was thinking, that son of a bitch was watching us. It was watching our patterns. That's what the hell this thing was doing. It was waiting for my ass to get out of the truck and fart around out there and stuff. But anyway, that next morning I went out. I measured again up on the post on my gate where the hump was, and it was right even with the top of my head. I'm 5'6", and that's how tall this hump was. And I measured back on the fence where I saw its body and its back end, and that was 9.5 feet.
Wow.
And
Well,
that's
I'm just
the one.
gonna,
That's the only one that really scared the living hell out of me.
well, I'm gonna tell you, I don't blame you a bit. Bug's ass has been by himself. He's on his own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, when I went there and measured that, this was the funny thing. When I measured it and I opened up that gate, he came walking up to me real slow. And I told him, I said, "Thank you, Bug. I understand what you were doing last night." I said, "Are you ready to come in?" He walked right in the gate. No, no hesitating. He came right in the gate, and I walked over there and unlocked the other gate going to the back house where the dogs are. He walked right in there, and he never wanted to come out again unless we were walking in the woods. So I
Yeah,
think
like,
Bug saved me that night.
May have. Wow. Mm. Yeah. Look, I'm not envious at all about that type of encounter.
no.
And that was one everybody talks about hyena. That to me, if I had seen its face, I didn't see it, but I don't know how big its head was, nothing like that. But the shape, the tan colored hair, I would probably say that would have probably been like the hyena kind of thing.
Well,
Oh,
whenever you say the hump on the back, could that have been the mane? Could that have been just hair?
No, there was no long hair like on those other ones. This was just it looked like short hair on skin. There was no fluff, no nothing to it. It's just, you know how a Brahma bull looks with that hump on
Yeah.
their back.
Yep.
That's kind of
Yep.
like what that looked like.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, maybe what a lot of people are saying looks like a mane going back. Maybe it is, musculature of the animal, of the creature, the being, whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe just some of them have more hair than others, but
Yeah. Because that family group, they definitely had a big tuft of hair because it was bouncing up and down. It was really long, but it didn't go all the way down the back. It kind of stopped about midway down their back, but it was bouncing like crazy. But this other thing, that hump, it wasn't just sticking up by itself. It came up, but it was sloping down its back, sort of. I've made a drawing, but my drawing made it look like a cow. It wasn't a cow.
I showed the drawing. Whenever you sent it to me, it looked like a Brahma bull, but then I listened to you explain it.
My drawing is lacking.
well, yeah. My drawing skills ain't too good. My crayons ain't that sharp. But hey, so like when you've had all these encounters, I mean, so are you having like most of them at night or daytime, both? What I mean,
The majority of it is at nighttime.
Yeah.
The majority of it is nighttime. I have seen a Dogman during the daytime, and I've seen a Bigfoot during the daytime. I sent those two pictures to Spencer. For those were daytime. But majority of it is at nighttime. And what's strange is the Bigfoot will come in, and they're here almost most of the year. But it seems like around January and February, it's like a changing of the guard. The Bigfoot will leave, and then the Dogmen are here.
That's interesting.
When I was living in that tent, there's a power pole back there, and right behind it is like where the woods start. And there was kind of like a trail that went through those trees there. And I had a little possum that was coming up, and I was feeding that little possum. I love possums; they're my favorite thing. And I noticed that it's kind of like the Bigfoot activity it hit a high point, and then it was kind of like not so much. But I could tell the day that they moved out and those Dogmen came in because the power company had been out here cutting limbs, and they just, leave them where they drop them. And I had been out there and made a big pile, and I threw them over into the woods. The Bigfoot had taken those limbs, which they weren't big, but they bent a little bitty tree over to a big tree. They pinned it in, and then they took those limbs that I had piled up. They took 3 or 4 of them and weaved them in and out around that little sapling to block off that trail. It's kind of I was kind of wondering, okay, we're leaving. You don't need to be coming back here anymore because those other things are coming in. And about a day or two after they blocked that trail off, there's a patch of dirt right there by my power pole. And it wasn't an adult, but it was a young one. It was a Dogman print. Right there in that dirt. It's kind of like saying, yep, we're back. And then the Bigfoot were gone.
Did the Dogman print, did it look like the ones that your friend casted and you sent me the picture of that?
Yeah, but it's not as pronounced, like an adult.
Yeah.
It's more like a child with the brand new pads and all that stuff.
Well,
But it did have like a little bitty heel on it.
all I'm saying is I've got another friend that is very well known in the Bigfoot world. And I sent him that picture. I was like, this looks just like what you casted. And it does. It looks almost identical.
Yep.
Anyway, so, I mean.
Some friends of mine, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that if you're saying that the prints that you saw look like the picture of the castings that you saw me, people are finding those tracks all over the country, and I mean from Alabama to out west to way up north.
Yeah, and when they show a Dogman track, now this is just from what I've found. They don't always sit back on that little bitty heel, behind their toes and everything. Sometimes it's just it looks like a dog's print without that little heel back there. But when you find one of the adult tracks, spread your hand out just as far as you can spread it out and look at it and put your, you know how big a sandwich plate is. It's not quite as big as a regular plate. But when you put your hand down in one of those plates, you still have room left over around the rim. Imagine a dog footprint that's big as that sandwich plate.
Wow.
Without that heel touching down. Yeah. I about shit one day. I found that right behind my truck one day, and I found 2 of them. I was like, what the hell? What kind of damn dog, is out here?
That's big. That's big.
Yeah. Yep.
Can you see the?
I saw one dog during the day. I got off work and I went the back way. It's about 15 miles to the place where I pay my water bill, and I went the back way, and it's a lot of gullies and valleys, and you're kind of like up on this road that sort of is like almost shoved up by itself. You can kind of look down in places on both sides and way the hell out into valleys and stuff. And I was on my way back. It was probably about 7:15 by then, and it had been raining the night before, so everything was wet. And I got to this one curve, and I went around this curve, and the road kind of goes up just a slight rise. And this another tan-colored Dogman, it walked right out of the brush, crossed over the road. It didn't give a shit whether I was there or not. I started slowing down, and it went by a tree limb, and when it went by the limb, it pushed it forward, and then it slapped back, and it was looking off across that valley, and it made one jump, and all I saw was its head. Then it made another jump, and it was gone. And that was during the daytime, but you could see where its fur was darker in places where it had been, in that brush that was wet, and that was pretty wild.
Have you heard any of the Dogmen? Have you heard any howls or sounds that they make?
Hell yeah, the howl that those things make sounds like the damn horror movie Werewolf Howls. Yep. I had, when I was helping my brother, I had come home one night because I always waited till he went to bed, and then I'd haul ass home, and I didn't stay that night. I just made sure everybody had a lot of food and water and stuff because I was coming home every 2 days, and I walked back out the door and I locked it up and everything, and just as soon as I opened up my gate to go in my car, I hear all this running and crap, and then it's like a leap over the fence down the hill, and then I hear that, and I was like, oh my God, it was right there by the corner of my freaking damn trailer, and I was right there at it. Oh God. And as soon as that thing howled, I heard all these coyotes start popping up, and they crossed the road and they went flying down the hill, and one of those coyotes, I know it got slaughtered. They were barking and yipping and yapping at this thing, and you could hear it just carrying on, growling and raising hell. And one of those coyotes, I heard this, and just steady, just crazy, just screaming and just tearing something up. And I know one of them had to gotten killed. And I was like, nope. And I got in my car and I left.
He said
that was standing right in the corner of my trailer.
Hell no. Greg, carry on for a moment, y'all. I got to go flip some ribs.
Oh my gosh!
You make
a He's flipping ribs. No, he's got a phobia about white sauce. I don't know what some white sauce ever did to him. But yeah, so how many years total now have you been living there, you said?
I moved out here in 2002. I moved out here February 2002.
And you've been dealing with them ever since then. And you've been dealing with them pretty much the whole time then?
Yeah. My place is like a mini Skinwalker Ranch, sort of. Not as bad, but it's bad enough.
Apparently. But now look, I mean, you hadn't heard of my stuff. I mean, I've been dealing with things since 2000. I mean, since 2000. Yep. So I'm 25 years deep. But I'm just dealing, as far as I know.
We need to talk.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm dealing with boogers, and like I said, now I've had very, very few reports of dogmen anywhere really close to me. Matter of fact, we went through last night over here in the forest where a guy swore to me that him and his girlfriend saw it too. We rode right through there, and believe it or not, it's going to be about 14 miles. We kind of checked it last night, about 14 miles from where I'm sitting. So maybe they'll stay over that way, which I know these things move around some. And that I try to block that out. It's bad enough dealing with boogers as much as I have. But people don't understand. And when I say this, I know you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of people don't even want to believe somebody that's had one or maybe two encounters. And when you bring to the table what I do and what you do, I understand. I get it that people say, well, these people's had all these encounters, and they weigh in on it of, well, they've had all these encounters. I mean, surely they're making it up or whatever, but they don't realize that we're living where these things are at, and that's why we're having an encounter. And it's absolutely mind-boggling when you go to thinking about it. I mean, I know when I say this, I know what the answer is going to be. How many times have you thought, why me? How did I get this?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think they just get to know you. I'm sorry, but the things have to be talking amongst themselves. I mean, especially the Bigfoot. The dogmen, you can't tell me that they don't have some way of communicating with each other, but I think they talk amongst themselves, and it's like, well, we can hang out at Lisa's place. She's not going to bother us. She's not going to do anything that's going to rat us out or make us unsafe to be around there. So they hang out and they watch.
Safe place. It's a safe place.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
and
look,
I think my place is just a corridor to the river. I mean, it's just like a place where they know they're safe to hide out for a while, and they can cross through and go to wherever they're going.
well, how far? So, how far from your place is it to the river? I mean, is it a mile, 2 miles?
As the crow flies, it's probably about not even probably 2.5 miles.
Okay.
Out there where I worked, I got pictures of tracks right there, close to the river in the bark area where, I mean, they were right there under the tower I was sitting in. That's one thing that creeped me out, because when you work down there, you're all on your own, and that fog would come rolling in, and then you'd get a call saying, we're not getting enough bark on the belts for the powerhouse, and we need you to go down there and adjust it. And you have to get a flashlight. You come down that damn tower, and you're on the ground, and you can't see but maybe 5 feet in front of you, and you have to make your way down the hill a little ways, and then walk out there all by yourself and catch a ride on the tater digger and get up in that control panel. And I mean, you don't know what might be standing right next to you. And there's a truck dump down there, and I found footprints all up under that thing. And I mean, who in the hell would want to walk around and crap like that barefooted? I wouldn't.
Well, for me, dealing with what I've dealt with, and this is just my redneck intelligence, but I felt like, I was having these encounters over here with these things in the woods to start with. And I just kept going back. They kept trying to run me off, and it was horrible. I mean, I went through some horrific encounters with these things for a long time. And then once they finally didn't run me off, and I kind of accidentally made peace with them, is what I call it. Then I got my cabin here. It's only about a mile or just a little over a mile where I had most of my encounters. And I, honest to God, believe that these things recognize me. They recognize my truck. And they realized that all the encounters they had with me, that I never tried to hurt them, even though I was armed.
While you were armed.
Yeah. While I was armed. Now, look, I'm the guy that's pointed a gun at them a bunch of times. And they always stopped. But I never did shoot at them. I didn't try to harm them. I was in self-defense mode. And I think that over time, they realized that maybe I wasn't a threat. And then once they realized that I knew about them, because I called their bluff, and to me, it made me feel like, well, okay, we've tried to run him off, and, he didn't leave. And now he's proved to us that he knows that we're here and what we are. And it's like, well,
especially when you could have shot at him and you didn't. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, well, we can get along with this guy. He's not brought a bunch more people in. He's not in here after us. He's not doing anything to provoke us. It's kind of like live and let live. And honestly, I think it's like they saw my truck. They saw me. They figured out this was where I was going to. And it's like, well, if he's coming to our place, we'll come by his. We see him. He's going to see us there. And it's kind of like I said, live and let live.
It's like a mutual understanding in a community of people that don't really care for each other.
Kinda,
They literally, if you saw how close Greg's encounters were to his man cave, like what he just said, it's you almost have to think that they developed a sense of trust that, hey, he's not going to go crazy. And then they started showing up at the man cave. It's the same thing with you. We had a question up here, Lisa, about, did you ever put out security cameras or game cameras?
I put game cameras out when it was one winter, I had some deer coming up, and I put a game cam out, just to see how many and what they look like and everything. And I had all kinds of animals coming up. They love rice bran. I mean, deer will dip into that. It looks like they're snorting coke. But I've done that, and I've gone back, and my camera would be upside down. And it was one of those cameras that weren't supposed to make noise, kind of. and the camera would be upside down. I had another camera that I'd had for a long time, and I knew it was probably messed up, but I wasn't sure. And I put it out one night, and it was right in front of my house, and it had a blue glow on it, and it wasn't flashing or anything. It wasn't doing what it's supposed to do, but I put it up anyway because I thought, well, I'm gonna try it out anyway, and before I throw it away. But I was sitting out on my steps one night, and the people on the other side of that road, they've got a yard security light behind their house, and behind just with that light on at night, you can see their yard. And I've seen those things run beside their house heading down the hill. I've seen that twice in their yard. It was Bigfoot. It wasn't a Dogman. But when I put that game cam up in front of my fence, something real quiet was making its way up the hill, and it passed in front of that blue light because it blacked it out. And then all of a sudden it stopped and it backed up. It blocked the light out again and went past it, backing up. I guess it was looking at it, but then I noticed from the yard light in the neighbor's yard over there, I could see the silhouette of it, and it was tall, it was gangly looking. It wasn't big, it was just gangly. Didn't really have a snout. It didn't have what looked like a face on it. It looked like maybe a snout coming out, but it was blunt. It wasn't long or sharp or anything. And I didn't know what the hell that was because the hair on the back of its head was sticking out like in a spike. It was like it had been brushed down and spiked out behind its head. And it was so tall, and just the silhouette of it, no like big fat muscles on it or anything. I was like, what the hell is that? And I went in the house because I didn't know what that was, and it was pretty much right by the fence. But I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was Bigfoot messed up or maybe a weird dog man or what the hell it was. But
well, could have been where people could have been that what people refer to as that type 3 gugway, or I think that's what they call it, but the kind with the baboon face, like the Beast of Seven Sheets.
Yeah, and I have found 3-toed tracks down by the swamp.
Oh shit!
It was like and then those 3 toes did have a claw on the end of them, but it looked like it because I was trying. Huh?
Did you say it did or didn't have claws?
They did. Those 3 toes did have claws on them. And it was a little bit longer than my foot. I wear a women's size 9.5 or a men's work boot size 7. So if that'll give you any idea how long it was just a little bit longer than mine. And I would have walked right past it, but the tulip poplars had bloomed and those seed pods, were falling. And that's what caught my eye because that seed pod was just completely crushed flat into the ground. And there was another little stick laying there that was rotten, and it was crushed to powder. And I went over there and looked at it, and that's when I saw this. It just had 3 toes. And I was trying to see if maybe a toe was missing, but there was no indication for a 4th toe or anything. And it was just 3 toes and almost like not quite in the middle of the foot, more off to like where your big toe would be on your right foot. It was like they were kind of like sort of on that side, but not really. I don't know, but it was a human footprint with that on there.
Are you finding structure around your property, like stick structure of any kind? Are you finding glyphs of any kind? So you are finding stick structure. Are you getting X's, asterisks, TPs? Are you finding glyphs on the ground?
I'm not real sure about the glyphs on the ground. I haven't really, because I've got so much crap, leaves and everything on the ground out here.
Yeah.
That's one thing that pisses people off. Why don't you find more tracks if you've got that? Well, there's leaves. I mean, it's just like a carpet of leaves. And it's,
I said, join the club.
Yeah. And there's twigs and sticks all over the place, but I've got one tree, and about 7 or 8 feet up, I noticed that all the limbs had been ripped off of that tree down, about that height. It was about 4 or 5 of those limbs that had been ripped off of that tree, and they were brought down, and they were teepeed up around that tree, and they were tied up with vine and shoved behind another little tiny, tiny sapling that was growing right up next to that oak tree,
Yeah.
and that stayed down there for a couple of years like that.
Yeah. Some of the stuff is a lot smaller than what most people think of. It's not all gigantic. That's
No,
that's great right there. Are you seeing any tree bows pointing like towards the nearest creeks or pointing at your house?
I'll tell you what I have discovered, and I don't know if anybody else has found this or not, but I find this on my place, and to me it's interesting. And if anybody else has found it, let me know. But most of the bent trees, they're pinned into either the end of the top of the tree is either stuck in the ground. It's just a little bitty sapling, probably no
Yeah.
bigger than maybe one or two of your fingers, and it'll be bent over. But what it'll be is like a small, for a little bitty like game trail, maybe raccoons, possums, rabbits, things like that. And the bow will be about come up to my chest. But the weird thing is, every one of those that go over one of those small game trails, it'll have another stick that has had all the little side limbs broken off of it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Except at the very end of it, the thing will be broken off, and you might have like an inch of that little limb left on there, and it will be draped across the very top of that bowed over sapling, and it'll be long enough where it almost reaches the ground. Like if something walks up under it, it would kind of like swing like a pendulum and go across their back. And I've always wondered if that's like a smell stick, go back and smell it and see what's coming through that trail. I find those all over the place.
So are you saying is the tip of the tree shoved in the ground and then it's hooked down with another stick?
Yeah, you got like a sapling that's bowed over that trail, and it's
Yeah.
pinned down top, to make an arch. And then they take like another stick, and they'll strip all the twigs off of it, and maybe leave one or two at the very end of it that are
Yep.
real thin. And at the end of the stick where they broke it off of whatever, they'll leave an inch of the little twig that sticks off that main stick. It's
Yep.
almost like a Y. They're making like a Y, and they'll hook it into the top of that arch. And if you sit there and you bump it, it swings back and forth, but it doesn't fall
Oh.
off.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I've been wondering, if that's like a scent marker thing that they're using to, when something comes through, it'll rake down across their back, and they can come back and see if it's a possum or whatever it is they might be interested in eating or something.
That I've never heard of that before.
I've never heard anybody talking about that. That's the reason I've been wondering, because I find that a lot here. There's even they'll take a bigger sapling and they'll bow it over across a trail, but it's
Yeah.
a bigger trail, kind of like what deer would go through, and they'll have a shorter pendulum hanging off the top of the bow on that sapling, and to me it looks like they're trying to see if it's deer coming through there, because it's not long, it's not down to the ground, it's up higher. It might only be a foot long, but it will swing like a pendulum too.
So right there around your house, have you found any blinds where it looks like they might be standing back behind the blind watching your house?
Oh yeah, that picture I sent you of the palmetto. Palmetto, when they grow
Yeah.
the fan on it, they droop down to the ground. They just kind of like droop, spread out, and they never stand straight up. And that picture that I sent you, they had pulled all those leaves up and weaved them, and even used another like a hedge to kind of wedge it up and everything. And when I found that, you could literally kind of step into it. It's kind of like concave,
Yeah.
And where this thing was standing at, you look straight up and it was looking right at the fence back there where I was camping at. And behind it, I could see on the ground where it had belly crawled because it had messed up all the leaves and slid down into a ditch there because it's like a ditch, and then you got an earth berm, and then on the other side of that is the swamp. So it slid down into that ditch, coming in and out of that to stand up inside that line to watch.
Are you finding what we call A's, or like that right there where they're leaned up? Are you finding those right there around your house?
Hang on a minute, let me watch it. Come on, thing. I have found that, yeah. But most of the time it'll be leaned up against something, and honeysuckle vines or other kind of vines will be weaved in and around and looped back around and weave through there and to hold it up sort of, or to keep the structure straight.
Have you found anything that looks like fencing? It's like rough fencing. It looks like they weave stuff together to make fencing, and it'll be like 15, 20 foot long, and normally it'll be like in a half circle.
I found where it's almost like they block off to come up towards the house from the swamp. It'll be like a whole tree, and it'll be up high about maybe 3 feet off the ground. Then right below it will be another tree right below it, and it might have some brush piled up on top of the top one. And I've always thought that was weird because I found that one time, and then I went back down about a week later, and the whole damn thing had been moved about 15, 20 feet up farther up the hill. The whole damn thing. So I don't know if that was the block off coming to my house, or maybe they were blocking off trying to keep deer on a straight path, or what the heck it was.
I was gonna ask you about that.
I think did I send you that one of the vines and the that were, I mean, it's beautiful. It was kind of like I'll just say a figure 8 with the vines. They had been drugged down out of a big ass tree. The vines were about as big around as your wrist, and they had been looped and everything. And then right in front of them, there were 2 saplings about as big around as your wrist that did not come from that spot. I moved all the leaves around to see if they were snapped off at that spot, but these were brought up there, and they were laid on top of those vines to make like an X. And then there was another one, a third sapling, that kind of had a sharp, not a sharp bow, but kind of bow in it, and it was laid on one side, kind of like pointing to something.
What was it pointing towards? Any idea?
It was pointing back towards the road. It's almost like saying we came through this way or something. Yeah, if that's what that meant. Hell, I don't know.
Well, I don't think anybody does. Not 100%.
That was right below that picture that I showed you with whatever it was up in the top of that tree.
Yeah.
That was right below that.
I showed that earlier. I kind of wonder if it's not like a marker for saying, hey, this is a good tree to climb up and watch her from.
Yeah. You know, you were talking about owls earlier. I went back behind the house to feed my girls and, talk to them for a while, and I noticed there were owls going off. I mean, and what piqued my interest because they weren't up in the trees. These were down on the ground, and I thought that's not owls, and it didn't even sound like owls. And I counted 7 different owl sounds, because when one went off, you might have another one a little bit down the hill go off, and then one behind go off, and then one closer to my fence go off. But I counted 7 different owl sounds, and one of them couldn't make the owl sound. It made a crow sound in the middle of the night. And I thought, cool, I'm going to record this. And I went to the almost not quite to the corner of my chain link fence, but I was back a ways, and to the right of me was my trailer, but it was a good distance away from me, and I'm standing there, and that phone that I had back then, um, you couldn't turn the light off of it when you're recording something. Back then I didn't think
Yeah.
about doing a video with the light turned off, but and still record the sound. But I'm standing there and I'm holding my phone up and it's got the light on, and evidently I pissed them off because I was messing up their hunting, and they were just coming through. And next thing I know, right in front of me, probably about 2 feet in front of my face, here comes a stick about as big around as your arm, about 5 feet long. It was chunks like a spear. It went straight across in front of my face, and it
Oh,
hit the
really?
side of my house and just fell to the ground.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's nice. Yeah, it's not. That's what people don't understand. When you start getting stuff thrown at you, it
Yeah.
changes lots of stuff.
Well, that's them saying it's time to back off. Are you finding? Okay, I know you're probably not looking for it, but stuff like this, where it's like a A over top of a X on the ground.
I may have, but as far as like looking at stuff on the ground like that, I look for things that I know. I've got a weird memory. When I go down there, I'll remember certain things and where they were at, and some stuff has, when I know it was there a few days before or a week before, I go back down there and it's not there again, and it's been moved. And it's
Yeah,
not like twigs that could get blown over or scooted away by a deer hoof or whatever, but it's sticks that are big enough that shouldn't be moved, but they're gone.
it,
So maybe that's like what you're talking about, but I haven't ever really paid attention to that.
they will move the stuff, and like sometimes you'll find bows going one way over a trail, and then you'll
Uh
come
huh.
back 2 months later and find the bows pointing the other way. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they're doing with it or anything, but
I don't
are
either. I
you?
had a tree down there that was probably about 60 feet long, about as big around as your ankle, and it had been pulled down, and it was back towards that tree where that thing was up in the tree that I showed you, and it was pinned inside some smaller trees with some brush thrown up on top of it. But on top of that brush, there were honeysuckle vines that were wrapped all the way around it tight to hold that tree in place. And then I go down there maybe a month later, that whole entire tree has been picked up. It's still in the ground now. It's the other end's still in the ground. It's just been pulled down. But that end of the tree that was pinned down, it has been completely moved about 30 feet back. And how it got through all those other trees, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
understand it.
yeah,
But where they laid it back down, you can see the tree that it brushed up against, because it's got like the bark is stripped about 10 inches of bark, that's where that tree has been moved up and down against it to tear the bark up. And they had moved it back about 30 feet and not torn anything up, but then they pinned it again to another tree to hold it in place.
you said that you've seen smaller ones. You didn't know if they were dogman or boogers. Are you finding
Hmm.
anything anywhere around you, especially by water or especially up on a ridge? Are you finding anything that looks like giant nests?
When I first moved out here, um, where my kitchen was, there were four windows, and I could look straight back into the woods there. And there was one spot back there that always creeped me the hell out. And I didn't know if it was wind blow, storm damage or whatever, but up in these trees back behind the house, there was this huge. Um, it was, it, I used to think it before all this stuff started happening. I was thinking, is something living in that? I mean, this look like. Have you ever seen those things that these guys will build and they'll hoist up on ropes to be up in a tree, but it looks like a barrel they've made out of small logs to sleep in at night up off the ground when they're in places where there's a bunch of hogs and stuff.
I don't think so.
It looked like brush up in the middle ways of these trees, but this damn thing was about 20, 30 feet long and probably, I want to say, about 6 feet high. And I didn't really see vines that could hold that up. I don't know how it was held up, but that stayed back there forever. And then we had a bad storm out here one time. We had a tornado that went over, and I was just looking back there one day, and it had fallen. And that winter, I walked back there, and it actually looked like it had a hole going into this thing. So I don't know if that would be a nest. I mean, it had to be something. Something was living in, because when it fell, it didn't completely like crush it down. It still had like a tunnel in it. So I don't know. I found I've laid logs and sticks, in a pile, and it's crazy to me because they'll take that whole entire pile and move it to a different spot and pile it up. So I guess they're making a spot where they can lay and watch.
I, they didn't like where you put the brush pile. They were like, no, that's got to go.
No
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
That's getting in our way. That's our food trail, or that's our way of seeing
Yeah.
you. No, we got to move that.
Yep.
What do you think? What do you think these things are? At the end of the day, the boogers and the dogman. Do you think that they're flesh and blood? Do you think they're part spook, part supernatural? Do you know anything about portals? What do you think these
I think
things
they're
are?
flesh and blood. I think they're flesh and blood, but I think they've got some skills, and they're
Yeah,
like I told you, about elephants and tigers having the infrasound. I
yeah.
think they're a type of, maybe the Bigfoot are a type of people. Hell, maybe even the Dogmen are a type of people. I don't know, but I do know that both of them will rattle your chest and they'll rattle your brain when you get too close. But I think they're a type of people. I told you about that experiment that I watched with that vase. They had put a vase inside of an acrylic cube, and they had a speaker inside of it, and they were showing the effects of infrasound.
Yeah.
And this guy turned up the volume, and as he turned it up, you could see that vase start vibrating. And he turned it up more, and it was really, really vibrating. Then all of a sudden, turned it up a little bit more, and it was almost like that vase was phasing out. And then you ended up where it just looked like a gray shadow. And when he turned it up the last time, the whole damn thing disappeared. All right. And then he started turning the volume back down. You saw that gray shape again. And the whole entire time, you can see vibration, but you've got that gray shape that came into view, and then turned it down a little bit more. It's a little bit more solid. And by the time he got through turning it completely off again, there was the vase again. And I kind of wonder if when these things shoot infrasound at you to make it look like they've disappeared or something, is that rattling the cones in your eyes to make it appear that they're walking through a portal to get away from you?
It
I mean, I don't know.
is it just rattling your organs, your brain, and you can't think straight? You
Yeah,
can't. You're not processing clearly.
yeah.
That's long been my thoughts on the subject about infrasound.
Yeah, I know there's people that have had heart attacks. There's people that have gone on their hands and knees, puking their guts out. People that have severe stomach pains,
Hey,
just go completely blank because they can't think straight. They couldn't even tell you what day of the week it was. That's
hey,
how bad when you get zapped, it can hurt you.
the amount of people in the Bigfoot world that have had really legitimate experiences and gotten zapped multiple times. I cannot tell you how many people have died of cancer at an early age after
Yeah,
constantly being around these things. I'm not saying that, that's
Yeah.
a correlation, but just, you never know.
Well, about the
What?
1970s, there was I read science papers, but around the 1970s, the Russians did an experiment with DNA and cancer cures and things like that, and they were using sound. And they found out that sounds can screw your DNA up enough where it can give you cancer. And they also found out certain sounds can cure cancer. It can kill the shit out of tumors and stuff. And that
Yeah.
was a Russian science paper. So
Well, I mean,
you can do all kinds of stuff to you.
there's experiments with people screaming angrily at like ice as it's forming, and
Yeah.
like the way that the crystals form looks all deformed, and then if they like play classical music, the crystals are all like perfectly symmetrical and lined up and everything. So who knows? I
Mhm.
don't know. We don't know shit about all this stuff in reality, but
They did an experiment with a woman that was singing, and she had a really big vocal range, and they had the sand in a container hooked up to the sounds in her voice, and as she was singing this beautiful song, you could see the sand actually creating flowers, trees, landscapes. I mean, it blew my mind just from her singing these beautiful notes.
huh. So at the end of the day, what would you tell people that don't have a lot of experience with the subject? What would you tell them about going out and looking? Now you said that you just sit there and listen. So you're a lot like Greg. You're not messing with them. You're not trying to provoke them. You're not trying to interact with them because you have them right there around your property. What would you
Yeah.
tell people about the people? And you've gone out with other people and
Oh yeah.
and them do calls and knocks and stuff like that. What would you tell people about going out and looking for these things? Would you tell them to do it? Would you tell them to not do it? Tell them to be careful? Would you tell them how to go about doing it to get an interaction? What would you say?
If you're gonna go out, do take a gun, but don't get all armored up with all the damn flashlights and the big chest plates and all that crap and knives hanging from your earlobes down to your ankles and crap. They see all that shit and they don't trust you. But now, if you're gonna go out, just dress like you normally dress and just keep your eyes up in the trees and keep looking side to side and look on the ground because you can literally walk right past these things and you would never know it. And a lot of people, when they walk, they're looking straight ahead in front of them. They're looking at the damn ground in front of them and they're not paying attention to anything behind them, to the sides, or up in the trees. Always, like they say, keep your head on a swivel.
You said up in the trees a few times now, and you and I have talked. I know that you've seen one up in the. Have you seen more than one thing up in the trees where it makes you go? Do you think the full grown ones? Do you think they climb trees and they're up in the trees looking down?
It'd have to be a mighty big tree, but I do think they send maybe their young ones, the teenagers or adolescent ones. I think they send them up trees where they can watch while everybody else, takes a nap during the day because they're more active at nighttime. And if it's raining, drizzling, about 1 o'clock in the morning, that's like their surprise time. Because you got that little bit of sound from the rain, and it's got that cover sound where they can sneak up on things. But yeah, keep your head looking up every once in a while. Because I mean, hell, you could walk right up under one and not even know it.
Let me ask you this: on like, let's just say you go somewhere and you get back home. When you pull up at home, what I know you got, just like I do, you got certain things that you do before you get out of the vehicle, before you go from the house to your vehicle. I know what's some of your routines that you had to develop to deal with these things.
Turning off the car, turning off the lights, and sitting there for about 5 minutes. Letting my eyes adjust. Looking around, listening, because there's been a lot of times when I've pulled up in my yard and it's pitch black outside. You turn it off, or the truck that I used to have, you turn it off and everything's dead silent. And then all of a sudden, the back of your vehicle will almost bottom out on the ground. Something shoves your vehicle down and then lifts it straight up and lets it go, and it bounces. So
No.
I don't ever get out immediately as soon as I pull in. Mm-mm.
Spencer, if you'll head on down here, Spencer, we can leave from here and be at her place in about 3.5 hours.
We can do that. we can do that this year, and we can go.
All you got to do is get here. I'll take you down there and drop you off, and then I'll come back and get what's left of you.
That's fine. That's fine. For once,
let me get my cabin finished first.
No, hell no. What are you talking about? You stayed out there in a tent. It'll be okay.
Yeah, Spencer's gonna stay in a hammock. He'll be ready to go.
I'm not gonna stay in a hammock. I got a thing against hammocks. I'll stay in a tarp. I'll stay in a tent. I'll stay in my truck.
That ain't never been a cookie roll wrapper for something.
That's what I'm talking about.
I have a theory that between egg rolls and burritos and any kind of like tortilla roll-ups, the chicken wraps that you can get at fast food places, I think people have a natural tendency to pick up something that is wrapped up with meat inside and go, that's food. Just start eating it. And I'm not getting in the damn. What would you rather eat? Would you rather eat a burrito, or would you rather eat like something that's shaped like a triangle? Everybody would rather eat a burrito. I'm not getting in a hammock.
Oh,
and don't cook any bacon. Don't ever cook bacon outside.
Hey, well, seriously, you're saying that, but whenever you lived in a tent for a while and you were doing all your cooking outside, did you cook bacon, and did you see a noticeable reaction from them?
Every time I cooked, yeah. I mean, it would spike up a little bit, especially after everything got quiet and I was in my tent eating supper or something. Yeah, it would spike up a little bit. I think I told you I was cooking a rack of ribs one night, and I walked in the house. I thought everything was okay on the grill, so I walked inside, and I came out a few minutes later, and all I saw was just smoke just blowing out around the lid and everything. I thought, oh shit, and I ran over there and opened it up, and fire just blew up, and one whole side of that rack of ribs was nothing but burned up ash. Almost. I mean, it burned that one side up so bad it was just crumbly meat, whatever meat was left on those bones, and so I cut the good end off, and I took the bad stuff and I threw it over the fence, and because I thought, nothing's gonna want that. It's just burned up crap. And I went inside and I ate supper, and I opened the door up the next day, and on my storm door, it looked like somebody had been chewing tobacco and spit all that shit all over my glass. You could just see it running down the glass. It was just gnawed up bones and black spit. That's all it was.
golly.
Imagine what they would have done if you'd have dipped it in white sauce and thrown it. They'd have busted a hole through your damn door.
Oh, and another thing, if you use Gain washing detergent or anything with Gain scent on it, be very careful. I got some of that Gain all-purpose spray cleaner, and before I went to work, I was on evening shift, so that was kind of like 2:30 to 10:30, and I cleaned my whole storm door. I hadn't cleaned my house yet, and it was getting the green algae on the siding and stuff, and I thought, well, shit, let me see what this stuff does to that algae. So I sprayed the siding on my house around my door, and I wiped it off. It came straight off with that spray cleaner. And I thought, hell yeah, I'll get some more bottles of that because it's cheaper than that other stuff that you buy in the big gallon jug. And I'll just get some bottles of this and put it in my pump-up sprayer and spray the house with it, and it'll just come right off. Well, I get home that night, and the vinyl siding around my door has been ripped off. And you know how tough vinyl siding is. You can't just, take it and split it in two lengthwise. I had a piece that was split lengthwise. I had 3 pieces that were completely raked off the side of the house. There's little, look like teeth marks or something on the vinyl siding. And the door where I had cleaned it, you could plainly see like greasy, dirty hair that had pressed up against the storm door. And there was a knuckle print right there in the middle of it. You can see the knuckles and part of the fingers and stuff where I guess they had punched that glass. And even on the other side of the door, they had tried to pull a little bit of that siding off, but it was mainly just that one side where I'd sprayed a lot of that stuff. And my friend Ricky told me, he asked me if it was the lavender scent gain, and I told him, I said, I don't know. I threw the shit away. But he said lavender is in the mint family, and a lot of people, he does nothing but Dogman. But he said lavender is in the mint family. And he said there's people that grow mint out in their yard, and they'll come out, and every single bit of it's been pulled up out of the ground and it's gone. They love those smells.
Huh. Well,
Note
either they love them or they hate it. But
Yeah.
yeah. Note to self: stay away from lavender.
stay away
He
from
said
game.
that mint was kind of like catnip to a dog, man. Kind of like, it's like catnip, you have put in a toy for a cat.
Yeah.
And so I don't know which one did the ripping, but yeah, they tore the siding off my house right there by my door. So no more game. I threw all that away, laundry detergent, all that stuff. I went back to using other stuff.
Just curious, are you getting any kind of but you said about the siding split in half, so boogers oftentimes will split bones in half like leg bones, and the whole inside will be cleaned out. It like lengthwise. Are you getting bones? Are you getting any kind of animal parts left there, like the leg of a deer or a coyote or anything?
No.
Have you found anything like that?
The only thing that I have found down the hill, and I hate it, I have found possum skin, and it's been completely turned inside out. The tail's not attached to it; it's just the skin. And I found skins twice from possums, and I found a big ass field rat that had been completely smashed flat. It was fresh too; flies weren't even around it yet. The legs were out to the sides, and this thing was flat on the ground where they had stomped it. Another time, I told you about this, and it's really gross. I've always had cat, like one black cat out in the woods. When I first moved here, there was a little feral black cat that stayed out here for years, and she wouldn't let you touch her. But in the wintertime, she would come up, and frail, skinny, and stuff. So I put food out for her to help her out, and she would come up and get strong again. Then she'd take off. But she did that for years, and somebody threw some cats out one year, and it was 3 black ones. And I was going to work one day because I began to only see one of them. I didn't know where the second one was, and I didn't see the third one or anything, just that one that was left. But I went to work, and I got down the road, and right in the middle of the road, there's one of those black cats. And I thought, damn, somebody hit it. And I didn't want to leave it in the middle of the road. I'm weird. I'll pull things off the road, get them, put them in the grass or whatever. But when I got out, this cat, it's like something had taken the fur and pulled it over the cat's head. The intestines, they were like laying away from it. But I didn't see a liver. I didn't see a heart. Nothing like that. But the thing that really creeps me out is like, when you got like a really good chicken breast, a chicken leg, and it's tender, and you can just about poke it in your mouth and pull the bone away. It's like something had done that to the back end of that cat. It was nothing but white bone, the spine, the back legs. The only thing left on the back legs was right up on top of the toes. There's a little tuft of fur left on the toes on the back legs, but everything else, as far as meat, was completely stripped to white bone. It's like something that had been laying out there bleaching in the sun for years. But the rest of the cat was still there, and I was looking at that and I thought, what the absolute hell? What would do that to an animal? But anyway, I drug it over and I threw it in the side of the road and stuff, and I went on down to the. I was going to the store that day, and I got through and I came back, and this cat was laying out in the middle of the road again, and I stopped and I got to looking because the vines on the side of the road were real thick. And then I realized right there where I had put that cat in the weeds and stuff and where it had been thrown out before, and it was right back out on the road again, there's a big archway blown through the vines on the side of the road there where something big had moved everything away. It was just a big arch of nothing, and everything else was just nothing but thick vines.
What
So
time of year
whatever it
was
was, it had to been still standing there when I moved that cat, and it didn't like it.
what time of year was it?
This was in the summertime.
Yeah, they threw it out on the road. They were cooking the rest of the cat, and you took it off the damn skillet, and they had to come back out there and put it back on.
That's gross. But I mean, it was fresh enough where nothing was coming around flying around it yet, so I don't know.
I think I asked her that in the first show. Have you ever you've smelled them, haven't you?
There's only been twice. I don't smell stuff real good. My nose has been broken. There was one time we went down to the dam to go fishing. The guy that I was dating at that time and another fellow that I worked with, he was my fishing buddy. I could call him up and we could go fishing anytime, we could get down to the dam. And there was a place out there where you could walk down to the river itself instead of being at the dam. And you drove off across the field and you went into the woods and down the hill and it was almost like in steps and you could get down to the water. Well, the guy that I was engaged to at that time, he liked to fish, but if he didn't catch anything in 5 minutes, he was ready to go. And so we were sitting there fishing, and my boyfriend started grumping around a little bit. So I grabbed a box of worms. I said, I'm going to go down here, and I'm gonna fish a little bit down here. And so I grabbed some worms, and I went down there, and they were a pretty good clip away from me. And this was at nighttime, and we only had one flashlight. And I'm sitting there, and the breeze came up from behind me where the trees are. And I got a whiff of something. I was like, good God Almighty, what the hell is that? And I was thinking maybe something dead or whatever, but it went away as fast as it blew up. And I just kept on fishing. And then the breeze kind of blew just a little bit again. And I mean, when that wafted up, it was strong. And then I heard a snap, and I thought, oh shit. And I didn't know if it could be a cat or like one of those big panther type things. I didn't know if it could be whatever, but with that smell, I didn't want to be around it. And I heard that snap, and so I got up and I went over there to the guys and I said, hey, I said, reel your lines in. And I said, pack it up. I said, we need to go. And my boyfriend was sitting there. He said, what is it? And I don't want to say he freaked out, but he didn't like things like that at all.
Yeah.
So I was telling my fishing buddy, I kind of got him off to the side. I said, something's in those woods. I said, and it smells horrible. I said, we need to go. So he got everything packed up, and when we got up to where the woods are, the first step, going through the woods, I made my fishing buddy get in front with the flashlight, and I told Cliff, my boyfriend, I said, I know it's not manly. I said, but please just humor me. I said, grab his belt loop for me, okay? And he said, what's wrong? I said, just please do it. I said, I'll explain later. I said, but just please do it, because I didn't want him running off through the woods and killing himself. And I grabbed Cliff's belt loop. I was behind. And as soon as we got up into those woods, then it started crashing through the damn limbs and stuff. And this is like driftwood and dry wood, that would easily break with something big on it. And it was coming plowing through those woods, and all you could hear was growling. And I thought, oh my God. And so I said, keep moving, let's go. And
Right.
about the time we got up to the second step up through the woods, Ryan's flashlight went out. And he said, we had to stop. He was sitting there banging the light and stuff, and this thing steadily coming. And finally the light came on again, but it was real weak. And we started hauling ass up the hill, and it was still coming towards us, growling and raising hell. And as soon as we passed the tree line up on that field where the truck was, it stopped. It was like it was running us away from the riverbank. But we got in the truck and left, and when I told Cliff what it was, he freaked out. He said, what the hell was that? I said, I don't know. I said, I have a feeling. I think I know. I said, but I'm not sure, and I'm not going to say. But I could smell that. And another time I had come home. Well, this is when I was helping Pat. And I had some...
Like?
Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. It smelled like crap, and a dog that hadn't had a bath in years is sweat and that musky crap smell that a old nasty dog that hasn't had a bath, and that's what it smelled like. It smelled like dog and crap. But it was a real
Lisa spent 5 minutes telling about the story and never said what it smelled like. But okay.
All right. Hey,
I'm sorry.
It was horrible. That's what we needed to know.
Yeah. But see, that's what I mean. You need to tell me to hush, because I don't have brake pads.
Yeah, I feel like I've been just sitting here on autopilot. I've been just listening like everybody else and enjoying it. You just keep doing your thing.
But the other smell that I got, I had come home from Huntsville, and I had some trash that I hadn't taken to the dump, and I didn't have because I didn't have food for me in the house, so it was mainly just paper and maybe a soup can here and there where I'd eaten something when I got home. But I decided, well, hell, I'm here. I'm gonna be here for a little while, and I'm gonna just burn this stuff, because it was just a couple of bags. And so I started a fire, and I threw the bags on the fire, and I got my lounge chair, and I was sitting there, and I had sprayed all around the edge of the thing in case something rolled out. I didn't want to catch anything on fire. So I'm sitting there, and it's quiet night, and it's a little bit cool and breezy a little bit. And then the next thing I know, I stood up, and as soon as I stood up, this damn nasty, rotten ass meat smell came up. It was like something rotten. And I went to the fire, and I was pushing it up and everything. I thought, I know I don't have anything in this garbage that smells like that. That's got to be something coming from the swamp. But then I realized the breeze isn't blowing up from the swamp. It's blowing mainly from the fence where the brush is and stuff. And I just went and sat back down, because I was thinking maybe dead animal or something. But when I sat back down, then I heard a pop. And that was a stick breaking. And I thought, oh, shit. So I got up out of my chair, and I walked about halfway to the fence, and I started panning the light back and forth through the brush and the trees. And as soon as I got by this one tree that was about 8 inches in diameter, this thing drew back behind that tree. It's kind of like you can't see my face. I can't see you because I'm behind this tree, so you can't see me. And the only thing that I could see was black hair, and I could see what looked like sweaty chest and stomach, and it was covered with like a thin layer of hair, but the hair was kind of long. But I thought, oh my God. And I moved the light slow back over there again because I thought, well, maybe I'm seeing things. And when I moved the light back again, it kind of drew up again behind that tree. And I was like, yep. And I went back to the chair. I got the water hose. I sprayed everything down. It was smoking, and I went into the house. But that was a rotten, putrefied meat smell.
Have you ever smelled? Have you ever smelled the PJ asked, and I've smelled this. Have you ever smelled the super strong urine smell? In my experience, I don't. I'm sure I asked PJ, but I don't remember what she said. In my experience, it smelled like urine of the highest degree, like
Yeah.
very strong on the ammonia end, and smelled like horse musk sweat. It was like body odor, musk, and urine, and it was so strong it would burn your eyes. Have you ever smelled that?
Yeah, I went to a park. I'm not going to say where. I went to a park and got up on this mountain. And as soon as we got out, it hit you like a brick wall. It was so thick in there.
Yep.
I mean, it was almost like you were swimming in it.
Great.
It smelled like pee and dirty ass dog, and it smelled like crap and everything else. It was just hitting you all at one time. It made my eyes water, and I don't smell hardly anything.
Greg has the best description of the sense, the smell that I've ever heard, which he said, what did you say, House? It's almost like it's oily, it's like a cloud.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's almost like you ought to be able to reach out and just grab a ball of it because it's almost like diesel fuel. Is it not smell like diesel fuel, but how the oil, I mean the air is almost like it's thick and greasy.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like you go in a room where somebody's frying a bunch of food and it's like you just wave your hand through it and it sticks to your hand. It's like the air is sticky and oily feeling.
Yeah, that's the way this place smelled. It's almost like if I touched a tree, I was going to get it on me.
Yeah.
It was nasty.
Well, Lisa, I want to ask you something. Like,
In fact, that picture that you showed that doesn't belong to me, but I got permission to show it, that was the same spot.
Well, Lisa, I want to ask you a question, and this may be something that you can nail down and maybe not. But since you've seen these things a bunch of times and got really good looks at them, have you ever seen anything on TV, movies that you could equate that looks similar to what you've seen as far as any horror movies like Van Helsing or like the any kind of Dogman show or any kind of werewolf movie? Is there anything that kind of hits home that it's like you could say, well, it looks similar to this movie, what they had or anything? I mean, have you ever seen anything that's close?
That young one in that family group, that young one, it looks like the older werewolf movie type things, where they show the guy phasing in and out, frame by frame where he's growing the hair and stuff. Yeah. That looks like the young one. But as far as like the Van Helsing thing, kind of close to the family group, but not really, because these things made the things in Van Helsing look like termites.
Wow.
Well, fuck that.
Yeah.
So she sent the pictures that you sent me that you said the young one looks like this and the family. Can I show these? Do you care?
Yeah, I don't care.
Did you say that's what the young one looked like?
That's what the young one looked like right there. Yep.
Wow.
And then that might be from the movie Bad Moon, I think is what that's from. And she said that.
Yeah, that looked like the mom and the dad, I guess, if that's what that was. The hair on the top of the back and everything, except the waist on that picture right there is so thin. The waist on these, it wasn't thin. It's like streamlined. It's like you and me and everybody else. Your waist goes down, but it's not like something you could take your hands and reach around.
Right.
Yeah. So if
And
you
the
had
thing
more of
too, everybody talks about tails. The only one that I've ever seen with a tail was that one that looked like a wolf. The rest of them, I have yet to see a tail on any of them.
wow,
Some of the more impressive stuff I've seen, one or two in particular from somebody that I know personally that I know is telling the truth. You couldn't really see it in the picture, but whenever he took the picture, he said it had a tail. So looking for the tail. Then again, who knows how many different kinds there are? You know, I mean, some dogs naturally have a stub, and some dogs have a full tail. So I mean, who knows?
Yeah, and then too, maybe it's a thing with them where they take their tail off. Maybe it's a hindrance to them getting in a fight or something like that where they could be injured. Maybe they take
Well,
those
sure.
tails off. I don't know.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. All right,
Mm-mm.
y'all. We've been going 2.5 hours almost. I got some ribs to cook. She's been very gracious to do a second show. If you have any specific questions, oh wait, where's the thing? We have not put this up for a while. There we go. There, boom. There's the email. You want to talk to me or Greg or Squirrel or one of the guests that we have on the show? Send us an email and we'll forward the stuff. And at certain points, I feel like I'm the agent for like Greg and Kumbo and everything.
oh my God! All right, well here's the big $1,000 question.
You
I mean,
pimp.
we don't want to we don't want to burn Lisa out, but I mean, I really hope that she'd be willing to come back. We'd hate to do it 2 or 3 weekends in a row, but you know, maybe for long we get her back on again. Because look, Lisa, I don't know if you were seeing any chat or not, but everybody so far is still very positive and loving what you're telling everybody.
That's so weird to me.
No, I can tell you what it boils
I
down
don't mean
to.
that in a bad way. It's just I'm not used to that. That just
Well, Lisa, the thing about it, we got some of the best people on the planet that's in this group,
Yes.
and a lot of these people have had encounters themselves, and they know what it's like. I mean, that's just where we're at with this.
Hey,
And
this is a channel for all of us. Most of the people that watch this channel are aware of how we feel about the subject, and they're expecting people to be very open. It's not like going on another channel where they're going to run through a standard interview. Most of everybody that's in the chat is like friends of ours that we know. And I mean, we're pretty much one big extended family, and we're all the same way. And everybody is like trying to be loving and kind and supportive and everything. But everybody has loved you.
You don't understand how nice it is to talk to people that actually live in this stuff or have experiences, because no one around here, you can't talk to anybody around here. Nobody. And it's maddening. I don't have anything to gain from this. I'm not trying to get popular. I'm not trying to put books out or anything like that. It's just what has happened to me.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, another thing too that I really want to stress to you, I'll just go ahead and speak for everybody in chat. And I'm sure when I say this, chat's gonna light up and they're gonna agree with me. But look, please watch our episodes. If you know, even the ones you're not on, try to get in here on Sunday and get in the live. And look, I'm telling you, everybody would be overjoyed for you to jump in live chat and just take back and forth with everybody. I'm telling you, get to know these people, please, because I'm telling you, you won't find a better group of people to know. There's no way.
1,000%. Greg never did live shows before.
No.
Before he came on here with us, and Greg knows Greg knows a lot of stuff, and Greg knows really big name people and all this kind of stuff. And Greg never did live shows, and now he co-hosts with us. I'm just
Yeah.
just meet the other people that we are friends with, get to know them.
Okay.
Everybody that sees this show, if you're not interested in the stuff that we talk about, or treating everybody on our channel as real people, and everybody that we're friends with, we're a big family is what we are. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're being very real on all of these shows that we do. I mean, you see us, we're the same jackasses every weekend. But
this is like sitting on somebody's porch and just talking.
Yeah. Well, that's how we try to make it. That's how we try to make it. You calm down. I'll talk to you after the show. Thank you for doing part 2. We'll get you back
fun.
on.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. We'll get you back on. Sherry did ask me to say to everybody, so on a very somber note, going out of here, Donna, Sherry's sister, Donna, and Misty's aunt, probably the reason why Squirrel isn't on here today. Donna lost her oldest daughter today.
Oh, God.
And Sherry requested that we all have thoughts and prayers and some understanding for that. So if you know Sherry, if you know Donna, if you know Squirrel, reach out to them and send some condolences and say a prayer, because losing a kid, there ain't no way that is ever easy, and that's going to be some hurt right there. So y'all take a minute away from the Bigfoot thing and be a decent human being, and give some prayers and thoughts about that, and let them know that you love them.
Her name is Sherry?
No,
it's
no. Yeah, Sherry's sister, Donna's daughter.
Donna, okay.
I don't know Donna's daughter's name, but
I mean the lady that lost her daughter.
It's
that's Misty. It's Misty's aunt Donna well, Sherry and Donna are both Misty's aunts, but it's Donna's daughter. Y'all. I mean, it's been tough. I mean, we found out before the show, and just sitting here and texting, and I mean, it's just horrible. I mean, I can't imagine going through that. It's just absolutely heart wrenching, because I mean, anybody that knows Donna, they know what a wonderful person she is.
What wonderful is an understatement. Yeah, I
cannot imagine what she's going through, and Donna knows that we all love her. Oh my gosh, the whole family. This whole bunch loves the whole family.
Her name was Jessica.
Jessica, yes.
Jessica was Jessica. Donna's daughter's name was Jessica. So Jessica passed today. Please be considerate. Be considerate. Like, don't blow them up, but definitely reach out to them and show your thoughtfulness, and just show some love, y'all.
I'll send a prayer to the big dude and ask him for some peace and everything.
If nothing else, guys, if I get a chance in a minute, or if somebody wants to put a post on our Woodwalkers Facebook page where everybody can go on there, and if nothing else, put your condolences on there, and then that way it's not really blowing her phone up, but all of them can see it. So please, y'all, just somebody jump on the Woodwalkers and do something on there for it, and would be awesome.
Yes, please.
Let me tell you what my mom saw. My mom was gone for over 8.5 minutes. Okay. She got sick, and when my brother got her to the hospital, the last thing my mom remembered was them calling her time of death. And she remembers seeing, she was standing outside away from him watching them. He called her time of death. She saw the nurse cover her head up with a sheet, and they walked out. And then mom said the next thing she knew, she was zipping down this tunnel. It was beautiful. And then when she got to the end of it, it was like an archway. And she looked inside of it, and she said the garden that these people were sitting in a garden. And she said the colors of these flowers, mom told me, she said, we don't even have human words to describe those colors. But everybody that was there, her nickname when she was little was Bug. And she had people that she knew, and then other people that she had never met, but she knew who they were. They were welcoming her home. Come on home, Bug. We've been waiting on you, baby. You know, glad you're here. Welcome home. All this stuff. All these people were glad to see her. And she said when she went to step over into that archway, a man behind her put his hand on his shoulder and he pulled her back. He said, Elaine, he said, I can't let you in right now. And she didn't want to go back, because when she got to that archway, she said that it was nothing but joy, the love that you feel. Mom described it as being completely covered with like warm cream, and it permeated your entire being, and it was just nothing but absolute pure love. And she said when he pulled her back, she said, no, I want to stay. He said, you can't. He said, you've got to go back. You still have a daughter to finish raising. That's what he told her. And
Wow.
she said when she got there, now she told me, she said, you don't think about what you left behind. You do, and you love everybody, but it's like fleeting thoughts, because you automatically know everything you left is going to be okay. And she didn't want to come back. And when he told her she had to, and he told her, he said, it's just going to be for a little while. He said, it'll seem like a long time to you. He said, it's not even a blink here. And so he turned her around, and she started going back through that tunnel. And she said when she hit her body, she said that's the most incredibly painful thing that you can possibly imagine when you go back into your body like that. She said it's like standing in front of a block wall, concrete wall, and a tractor trailer rig going full blast, hitting you. She said that's what it feels like to come back into these bodies. And she said these people do not understand how heavy and how filthy and just so corrupt our bodies are. The weight alone, and she said it's almost like you can feel every nasty, filthy thing that's ever been committed on this planet inside the skin. And she told me, she said it would be better for you to be standing chin high in raw sewage than to be in these bodies.
Yeah.
But she said that when she left her body, she said it was like the most natural thing on the planet, and there's no pain, no nothing like that. And she described that leaving her body. What she told me was like, she told me she's imagine a little slight breeze blowing on a dandelion seed pod, and those little seeds just releasing into the air. She said that's what it's like, and she says there's no fear, so it's out there. Yep.
Well, I hope that gives comfort. It does to me. I've got family and everything. We all do.
Look, all I can tell y'all, the Lord's real. I mean, Lord's real.
1000%.
Yep.
Trust in it. Trust in your family, and hey, get to know your extended family, the people that we know and everything. Y'all have prayers for Jessica and Donna, and thank you, Lisa, for being on the show. We'll get you. I'll keep talking to you. We'll get you on again for part 3 or part of a roundtable discussion or whatever. But
yes, 100%. Yep, I enjoyed it. I mean, I really did. I've enjoyed this show today. So
watch out for those arches. See if you find any little twigs swinging on them. Let me know if anybody's not found that.
I will be looking for that. I've not ever seen that, but I'll pay attention. Y'all, you see the email. If you want to talk to somebody or be on the show or anything like that, let us know. All right, Lisa, hang on backstage. See y'all.
Okay.
Love y'all. See you next
Big
weekend.
love. Big love,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye. Bye. Squirrel.
Hey, y'all. Hey, Spencer. We're swapped
Hello,
around.
Huh?
We're swapped around again. Hold on.
Yep. I know you do it on purpose.